Welcome back. In part 3 of What If Deku Meets His Queen? We dive into the next chapter of their saga. What surprises await? Let's find out. We see Izuku by a lake. Izuku, so peaceful. He said calmly. Still remembering yesterday with Shizu. Master, are you going to try out your new abilities? Izuku, yeah, Jarvis, I'm gonna see what I can do now. He said neutrally. Alright, Master, just be careful. Izuku, don't worry. Then Izuku noticed a rock on the other side of the lake. Izuku, first, I'll test the distance. He said, raising his hand to point towards the large rock. Flames surrounded him as he launched a powerful blast towards the target, but the rock shattered into pieces. Izuku stopped the attack. Izuku, wow, it reached a good distance, but I never thought it would be so destructive. He said, looking at the rock and the trees behind it burning. Sigh, better put out the fire before the whole forest burns down. He thought comically and started extinguishing the flames. Few minutes later. We see Izuku looking at the lake peacefully, and the forest was somewhat burnt, but he managed to put it out to prevent further damage. Perhaps he'll receive a little scolding from Rimuru later. Izuku, so peaceful. Master. Izuku, what is it? Aren't you going to say goodbye to the girl? Izuku, you mean Shizu? Yes, Master. Izuku, honestly, I don't know, and how do you know she's leaving? She seemed like she was leaving today, Master, maybe she'll go in the afternoon. Izuku, then I still have time to say goodbye. So you are going to say goodbye? Izuku, of course, honestly, it would be rude not to bid farewell. I'm glad, Master. With Rimuru. We see her with Kaijin and the brothers looking at the new projects. Rimuru, they've outdone themselves. She said, amazed by their work. They're incredible. The dwarves felt proud. Kaijin, thank you very much, Rimuru, I hope Izuku likes them too. Garm, by the way, where's Izuku? Dord, I saw him heading to a lake. Rimuru, a lake? I think I know where he'll be. She thought, then heard something that bothered her a little. Kaijin, maybe he's with that girl Shizu too, they got along well. Rimuru, do you really think so? She said, somewhat annoyed. Kaijin, yeah, I do, and what's wrong with that? Jealous? He said with a smile. Rimuru, jealous? No way, don't be silly. She said embarrassed. Kaijin, it's just that you said it as if you were jealous. Rimuru, well, you heard wrong, let's just continue with the other projects. She said, and the dwarves nodded but thought. The dwarves, she's definitely jealous. Rimuru, I think they're leaving today in the afternoon, I'm not sure but I have a bad feeling. With Izuku. Several hours have passed, and we see Izuku sleeping peacefully, but then he began to wake up slowly. Master, they're going to leave, you should say goodbye. Izuku, I heard you. He said as he got up. I hope Shizu doesn't say anything about the kiss. But suddenly the sky began to darken, as if a storm was approaching. Izuku, what's happening, Jarvis? I don't know, Master, but I feel a strong energy in the village. When Izuku heard it was in the village, he started running quickly towards it. Izuku, I hope everything's okay. He thought with a cold look as he ran. To go faster he activated Ofa up to 10%. Faster. It didn't take long for Izuku to arrive, but as he was getting there, he saw a creature in the sky, but it wasn't alone, there were other flying creatures beside it. When he saw that, he hurried his pace even more. With Rimuru. Ren, Shizu. Gido, is that Shizu now? He said incredulously as he saw the creature. Kaval, it can't be. He said scared and his companions looked at him. That's the Flame Conqueror. The companions were shocked while Rimuru was very confused and surprised by the situation. Rimuru, huh? Gido, are you talking about her? The same Flame Conqueror? Eren, is that Shizu? Gido, yes, but now she turned into Ifrit. But it wasn't time for questions. Ifrit started raising her hand and launched an attack, but they managed to dodge it barely, but the attack fell around, burning the houses they had built. Rimuru, hey, we just finished building those. She said angrily. Now we have more work. She thought with a depressed aura. But then Ifrit was about to launch another attack. Rimuru, Reber. She said, getting his attention. Get everyone out of here. Reber, but. Rimuru, it's an order, Reber. She said seriously. Reber nodded and started getting all the goblins out and leading them away from here. Rimuru, Where are you, Izuku? She asked and said. You, go away. She said to the three adventurers. Eren, no way. Rimuru, huh? Gito, we can't leave, Shizu is our companion. Kaval, and we can't abandon her, especially like this, we have to help her. Eren, we're going to help, we're not going to leave her. The adventurers, for Shizu. They said as they prepared to fight. Rimuru, well, okay, just be careful. She said, a little surprised by what they said. They ended up being good companions. She thought happily. But then Ifrit launched another attack, but this time it was like a massive wave. Kaval managed to create a shield that broke but managed to lessen the attack, thus causing less damage. While Rimuru remained unharmed, she surveyed the surroundings again and noticed the increased damage. Rimuru, I have to stop this once and for all, we just finished everything and now, thanks to this, we have even more work to do. Ifrit launched an attack at Rimuru, but she managed to jump in time, avoiding it. Rimuru, water sword. She said and launched her attack, but when it got close to the target, it vaporized. Of course, I should have known. Then the creatures beside Ifrit began to attack, but they received an ice attack, and Rimuru saw Eren noticing that it was her. Eren, icicle lance. She thought as she launched the ice attacks. Rimuru, is everyone okay? Eren, of course, we'll take care of this. We're adventurers, we risk our lives. Kaval, hey Eren, I'm the leader, but whatever, we're in this together. Gito, we're a team. Rimuru saw this happily, but then dodged some attacks from Ifrit. Rimuru, Ranga. She said, and suddenly Ranga appeared in some sort of portal, with Rimuru riding on him. Let's go. Ranga, yes. Ranga began to run while dodging the attacks. Rimuru, Ranga, do you know where Izuku is? Ranga, of course, he's on his way. Rimuru, but when will he arrive? She asked, but then noticed that a creature was about to attack her, but Ranga couldn't dodge this. Darn it. But then the attack was deflected with a strong gust of wind. Rimuru, huh? A gust? That means. Ranga, Izuku-sama. He said happily as he saw Izuku arriving just in time. Izuku, finally made it, those fire attacks did drain me a bit, I'll have to be careful when I use it. He thought, but then noticed the situation. Can't believe it, even more work? He thought comically as he saw the destroyed and charred houses. Rimuru, Izuku. She said happily, and Ranga headed towards him. Izuku, what's that thing? Rimuru, you won't believe it, but that's Shizu. Izuku, what? Ranga, that's true, Izuku-sama. Izuku, that thing is Shizu? He asked somewhat incredulously. Seriously? Shizu. Izuku also noticed the adventurers fighting with the creatures. Izuku, this isn't something you see every day. He said comically. But then a creature started approaching Izuku at full speed, about to attack them. The adventurers, Ranga, Rimuru, Izuku, Izuku-sama, Izuku. But then Izuku turned towards the creature and prepared to attack. Izuku, die. Smash. He said, and with his fingers, he was able to launch another burst of air, instantly killing it. This left the adventurers very surprised, while Ranga was amazed and had more respect and admiration for his master, while Rimuru was surprised. Rimuru, that was incredible, Izuku. Ranga, you're amazing, Izuku-sama. You surprise me more every day. Izuku, thanks, but Rimuru, why are you surprised? You could easily kill it with black lightning, right? Rimuru got nervous. Rimuru, he, I just forgot I had that ability. Izuku, sigh. Rimuru, but that attack is very destructive. Izuku, yeah, but the place is already destroyed. Anyway, we're going to have a lot of work after this. Rimuru, you're right. She said, launching an attack towards three creatures, disintegrating them and creating a small explosion. Might as well start with this. She said comically. Izuku, yes, Ranga and Rimuru. He said, getting their attention. You'll help the adventurers with those remaining creatures. Ranga, yes, Izuku-sama. Rimuru, but what will you do in the meantime? Izuku, isn't it obvious? I'll fight with Shizu or whatever. Rimuru, it's Ifrit, I think, that's what I heard from one of the adventurers. Izuku, thanks, now go. He said, and they went to help the others. Izuku watched as they killed the creatures and then looked at Ifrit. Izuku, now it's just you and me. He said coldly. Ifrit said nothing, descended from the air, but as soon as it touched the ground, it began to melt with each step it took. Izuku, lowering the temperature, huh? He said comically as he watched him start to create types of clones, surrounding him. Let's play who's who? He asked while looking at all of them. Rimuru, Ranga, and the others were fighting the creatures, but there were few left. Then they looked at Izuku. Ranga, Izuku-sama. Rimuru, let's finish this quickly to help him. Ranga, yes. Kaval, but is it okay to let him fight Ifrit alone? He asked while dodging an attack from the creatures. Guido, he's right, is it okay? Ranga, are you saying Izuku-sama is weak? He asked angrily and seriously. Kaval and Guido, and no. They said nervously. Rimuru, calm down, Ranga. She said, calming him down. And relax, Izuku can handle it, but let's hurry with these creatures anyway, even if he can, we should help. Izuku watched everything coldly. The clones began to launch attacks, but Izuku easily dodged them. Izuku, these attacks are slow, is he underestimating me? Is he mocking me? He thought as he dodged. Anyway, let's finish this before things get worse. He said and activated Ofa up to 50%. Master, why don't you use your new abilities? Izuku, because it probably won't hurt him and might even feed him, giving him more power, I don't want to take that risk. I understand, Master. Izuku started attacking the clones quickly, and in a few seconds, only the original remained. Izuku, I think I won. He said to the last one standing. You're underestimating me, and that'll be your biggest mistake, Ifrit. He said coldly. Ifrit felt a chill for the first time and stepped back. Izuku, what's wrong? He said coldly and started getting closer to him. Ifrit was gradually retreating. Izuku, are you scared? He asked while still getting closer, but then stopped. You destroyed what it cost us to build, the effort and all that was in vain because of you, Ifrit. We have more work to do after this, and besides. Shizu. What did you do to her? He said and disappeared. Ifrit became disoriented, then spat blood and noticed Izuku's fist in his stomach. Izuku, hope this thing doesn't affect Shizu. If it does, I'm sorry. Good thing I'm immune to physical attacks and pain. He thought, observing his hand completely burned but starting to regenerate. Ifrit knelt down, placing his hand on his stomach. Izuku, seems like you weakened, huh? He said, crouching to be face to face. This isn't all your power, but you let your guard down, and that was your terrible mistake. He said and gave him a slap that sent him crashing into some rocks. I might not look it, but I'm very angry. He said coldly and started approaching Ifrit slowly where he fell. This was seen by the others, who were surprised and terrified, especially the adventurers. Ranga and Rimuru were surprised and concerned for Izuku. It was the first time he acted like this. The creatures were no longer there, they were all dead. Rimuru and the others had finished with them and were only watching Izuku, angry for the first time. Izuku, return to Shizu. He said coldly as he raised Ofa to 75%, releasing more powerful lightning bolts, this time in red. Ifrit became extremely angry but was also scared. He began to recover little by little and started launching attacks at Izuku, who only dodged them effortlessly. Izuku, you make me pity you. He said, getting close enough. I'll repeat it once more, and I hope you listen. Return to Shizu. He said coldly. Rimuru, Izuku. She said, very worried about him. This is the first time he's acted like this. Ranga, Izuku-sama. Ifrit just kept staring at Izuku, then prepared an attack, but Izuku didn't care about that. Izuku, what? Desperate? Ifrit launched the attack, it was close range, hitting Izuku directly. Everyone, Izuku. Eren, Shizu. If you can hear us, stop, please. This left a large cloud of smoke. When it cleared, Izuku was unscathed. Izuku, you don't know, but I have regeneration and am immune to pain. But I admit, that was a great attack. I commend you. He said. Ifrit was about to launch another attack, but Izuku grabbed his arm. Izuku, calm down. I don't want to cause more harm. Just return to Shizu, okay? Ifrit looked at him with hatred, then sighed. Izuku, Rimuru. He said and let go of Ifrit's arm. He was about to attack, but Izuku reacted and delivered a strong hammer-like blow, slamming his face into the ground. I said, calm down. Rimuru quickly approached with Ranga. Ranga, Izuku-sama. He said, concerned for him. Is it really you? Izuku, of course it's me, who else would it be? I was just angry. Now I'm just a little angry. Rimuru looked at Izuku, not knowing what to say in this situation. Izuku, it's okay, right? Sorry you had to see that, but like I said, I was angry. And Rimuru, maybe he won't return to Shizu. He said, looking at a freak like Rimuru and Ranga. I know you have a unique ability that allows you to gain the abilities of the other when you devour them, so. Devour a freak. He said, surprising Rimuru. Rimuru, how do you know I have that ability? Izuku, I don't know, just a guess. He said simply. Thanks, Jarvis. Rimuru sighed and approached Ifrit. Activate unique ability, Predator? Rimuru, yes. She thought and began to devour him. In a strange place. We see Ifrit in a dark place, he was confused and furious. He began to launch attacks desperately, but they did nothing. Then he heard a voice. You'd better give up, Ifrit. He said, and Ifrit looked at him, only seeing his eyes, he was surprised. There's no way out of this place. You're not a worthy opponent for Rimuru. And that Izuku guy. Rimuru is a very important friend, and now what I've seen, Izuku has become one of my friends too, just like Rimuru. I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. Then he revealed his figure, a dragon. Ifrit was shocked. Veldora, I'm the Storm Dragon, Veldora Tempest, and it will be a pleasure to face you. The atmosphere became heavy, and Veldora started laughing, mocking Ifrit. Only Veldora's laughter could be heard. We see the goblin village almost as good as new, just a few touches left after the Ifrit incident. The damages were immediately fixed, just a few things were needed to make it like new. We focus on a small house where Rimuru, Izuku, and Shizu are. Shizu is lying down while sleeping. Rimuru, Izuku. Izuku, yes? Rimuru, do you think she'll recover? She's getting weaker every moment, and that worries me a bit, Rimuru thought sadly. Izuku, he said nothing as he watched Shizu sleeping. Rimuru, Izuku? She said, looking concerned. Izuku, she won't recover. He said, surprising Rimuru. Rimuru didn't say anything and looked at Shizu. Izuku, you've noticed it too, she's getting weaker. If it continues like this, she'll die. He said, clenching his fists. Though his face didn't show it, he was angry and disappointed. I failed. I couldn't do anything again. I'm sorry, Shizu. I can't do anything to save you. Once again, I'll see someone die in front of me without being able to do anything. I'm useless, he thought, clenching his fists tighter, which Rimuru noticed. Rimuru, Izuku, calm down. Izuku, I'm just a deku after all. He whispered, but Rimuru heard it. Rimuru, you're not. She said, and he looked at her, you're not a deku, you're not useless, okay? You did what you could. You're thinking you should have done more, aren't you? Relax, it's not your fault. You did well. You can't always help everyone. She said sadly while putting herself over Izuku. Izuku, but I. He was interrupted. Shizu, Rimuru is right. Izuku and Rimuru looked and noticed that Shizu had awakened. Shizu, it's not your fault. You did well, okay? Don't blame yourself for that. I should thank you instead, he. Rimuru got off Izuku's head. Rimuru, see? Even Shizu says the same. Izuku, thank you. Shizu gave a small smile, but then she looked at the ceiling. Shizu, Izuku, I'll repeat it, thank you. Izuku, huh? Shizu, I almost killed good people again, people who are very important to me. With my own hands. Izuku. Rimuru, would you mind listening to me? Rimuru, no, but you shouldn't talk much. You're still recovering. She said sadly. Izuku, Rimuru is right. Shizu turned, looking at them with a smile. Shizu, I want you to know my story and how I survived. Izuku and Rimuru, okay. Rimuru's point of view. Even though she didn't remember it very clearly, Shizu told us everything that happened. She spoke of how a freak possessed her when they summoned it and how she ended up killing her friend. End of Rimuru's point of view. Shizu, when Perino died, I continued serving the Demon Lord as his assistant. Then, I met her. Rimuru, who? Shizu, the heroine. Izuku and Rimuru, the heroine? Shizu, yes. The heroine. There was a battle, and the demon lord abandoned his castle, leaving me to watch over it. It had been the will of the fire spirit, Ifrit, or perhaps my own decision. I honestly don't know. Obviously, I couldn't defeat her, she was too strong. Rimuru, the heroine? I guess we're not talking about the same heroine who sealed Veldora in the cave. Shizu, I thought she would kill me, but instead, she asked me a question. She asked what I was doing there and also asked how I had managed to survive. I was a demon, and I believed every word she said. She told me it was okay, and my feelings returned to me. That's how the heroine accepted me. She said, looking at her mask on the table, it was also her who gave me this mask. She said it would increase my magical resistance and help me suppress Ifrit. She said, straining to reach the mask. Izuku, let me help you. He said, went to the table and gave her the mask. Shizu, and I continued traveling with this mask, learning about this world, about magic with the power of the mask. I even learned to use Ifrit's unmatched power to help others and to fight. Rimuru, and that's how you became known as the Flame Conqueror. Izuku, also, that attack was incredible, I loved it. Rimuru, me too. Shizu smiled. Shizu, I loved traveling with her. It truly made me deeply happy, but she disappeared, leaving me to my fate and completely alone. Izuku, why? Shizu, honestly, I don't know why she did that, why she left. I promise we'll meet again were her last words. It was then when I decided to become even stronger. I wanted to help everyone who was suffering. I worked hard for years, they turned into decades. She said with a slight smile. Izuku, if it's any consolation, you kiss well. I liked it. He said with a cheeky grin and a thumbs up. Izuku's remark caused Shizu to blush intensely, while Rimuru was caught between surprise and anger. Rimuru, you kissed? Izuku, more like, I kissed her. He said calmly. Rimuru, we'll talk about this later. She said seriously. Izuku, why do I feel like I'm going to receive a scolding? Or a severe punishment? He thought, maintaining a poker face. Shizu, I'm glad you liked it, Izuku. Honestly, it was my first kiss. Izuku, your first kiss? Then forgive me. If it was your first kiss, it must have been important to you, and I gave it to you. He said while bowing, plus, thanks for the abilities. Shizu, don't worry. Honestly, and in a way, I'm happy it was you, my first kiss. I quite liked it, although I hope it didn't show. She said with a smile, so, thank you. Izuku, I honestly don't know what to say about that. Shizu, hee hee hee. Rimuru watched this with annoyance but only sighed. Shizu, isn't it incredible, though? It's been decades. That's truly incredible, isn't it? Izuku and Rimuru, yes, very. Shizu, that's when they started recognizing me as a heroine. However, I wasn't the young girl I used to be, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to contain Ifrit. One wrong step and I could accidentally release him. Thinking about all that scared me a lot. I was clear that I could hurt someone important to me, so I decided to retire and become a teacher. Izuku, a teacher? Shizu, to be a teacher at a school. Izuku, ah, I see. Rimuru, we have schools here too? Shizu, yes, in a place called the Kingdom of Ingratia. Shizu, it's for children from other worlds. Izuku, wait, children? Rimuru, you're speaking in the plural. Izuku, are there many coming from other places? Shizu, one of them taught me the phrase Izuku said the other day. Izuku and Rimuru? Shizu, remember? Izuku, you mean when Rimuru and I introduced ourselves? Rimuru looked at that, and Shizu gave a smile. Shizu/Izuku/Rimuru, I'm not a bad boy, like the slime. It's not a bad slime. They said, and Rimuru and Shizu laughed while Izuku looked at them with the same expression. Shizu, it was a lot of fun. She said, then remembered some moments with her students, many days of peace. With time passing, some had to leave me, but one of them became the Grand Master. Rimuru, the Grand Master? Shizu, he's responsible for overseeing the guardians of each country. Rimuru and Izuku, that sounds very important. Shizu, yes, it is very important. I began to think that I had nothing interesting left to teach, and perhaps because I was nearing the end of my life, It became difficult to suppress Ifrit's will. There was only one thing I could remember, and I decided to go on a journey. Rimuru, and what did you remember? Shizu, my quest to find the man who summoned me. That's it. Izuku, do you want revenge? Shizu, I don't know, but there's something I would like to know about him, and it's the reason he. She said, then remembered the adventures, her companions, they were so kind to me, even though they brought so many troubles. Rimuru and Izuku, that's true. Shizu, it was a lot of fun, but now. Hey, slime. You still haven't told me your name. Rimuru, what are you talking about? You already know it, don't you? It's Rimuru, Rimuru Tempest. Shizu, not that one, I'm talking about the real one. Rimuru, huh? My name is Liz. Liz Mikami. I hope that's the right last name, if not, let me know, and I'll change it quickly. Shizu, I'm called Shizu, Shizu Izawa. Shizu and Rimuru looked at Izuku. Izuku, what? Shizu, your name. Izuku, if you already know, don't you? Rimuru, I know, but the real one. We already said ours, yours is missing. Izuku, but Izuku is my real name, I didn't change it, and why would I? It's not like we're running from the law and need to change our identity. He said jokingly. Rimuru, sighs seriously, Izuku, you never change. Shizu, he, I like the joke. Izuku, but if you want, I can say my last name, I don't think I mentioned it, and if I did, I'll repeat it. Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya. Shizu, Midoriya. She whispered. Rimuru, yes, I'll still call you Izuku. Izuku, I'm glad to hear that. He said, but then he saw Shizu, looking very tired. Shizu, it's time to rest. Shizu, Liz. Rimuru, yes. Shizu, can I ask you a favor? Is that okay? Rimuru, oh of course, ask whatever you want. Shizu, please. Eat me. Rimuru and Izuku, huh? Shizu, since you consumed the curse that was buried in my soul. It would make me very happy. I don't like this world, but I can't hate it, not as much as that man. That's why. I don't want this world to absorb me. Please, I want to rest in peace. Please. Rimuru looked at Izuku, who just had his head down but nodded. Rimuru, yes, it's okay. Shizu smiled as tears streamed down her face. Izuku, but before that. He said, and the two looked at him, what's the name of that man? Shizu, Lion Chromel. Izuku, Lion. Chromel. Shizu, he's a very powerful demon king. Rimuru, but I don't understand why you want to find him. Shizu, I just want him to know that I, this poor human, exist, so that maybe those children can be saved one day. She said, but then Izuku grabbed her hands. Izuku, don't worry. I'm Izuku Midoriya. I'll make sure that Demon King, Lion Chromel, listens to all your wishes, Shizu. Shizu, thank you very much. And there's something else. Izuku and Rimuru, huh? Shizu, Izuku. Izuku, yes? Shizu, sorry. I just wanted to help you with your feelings. Izuku. Shizu, I wanted to see you smile. But even if I'm happy you're by my side in my last moments. Izuku, smile. Come on, Izuku, smile. It's easy, right? Why can't you smile? For her. At least fulfill that wish. Smile, damn it, come on, he thought and tried hard. Shizu. Shizu looked at him as Rimuru wanted to see what he would do. Izuku, see you. He said with a smile as he put a finger on her cheek. It's hard for me to do this. Why is it so hard? Try harder for her. That's what a hero would do. Something like this. Something like this. Shizu looked surprised like Rimuru, tears streaming down her face as she smiled. Shizu, your smile is beautiful, Izuku. She said with a smile. Izuku, really? He said, coming back to himself. Rimuru, Izuku has a beautiful smile. Rimuru and Shizu, of course, it's beautiful. They said, looking at each other and laughing. Shizu, see? Even Rimuru thinks the same. Thank you. Thank you so much. She said and closed her eyes. Rimuru and Izuku looked at Shizu for a moment. Izuku, rest in peace, Shizu Izawa. He said, bowing his head. Do you want to use the unique ability, Predator? Rimuru : yes. He said in a whisper. So she can have happy dreams and never have to wake up. He thought and began to devour her. In a strange place. We see Shizu walking in an unknown place, then she turns and sees two figures. When she saw them, she started running towards them. Shizu, there they are. This time don't leave me behind. I'm coming. She said, and as she was about to reach them, they disappeared, but then she looked elsewhere and found a house where a woman was. Mom? She said and started running towards her. The woman looked at her. Mom. She said, and we noticed that Shizu was getting smaller. Mama. She said, and as she reached her mom, we noticed that Shizu was a child again. The mother received her with open arms. Without hesitation, Shizu hugged her. Mom. She said, crying as she hugged her. Back with Izuku and Rimuru. We see Izuku looking at Rimuru naked with Shizu's body but smaller. Izuku, you look like Shizu but smaller. He said, but noticed Rimuru had tears. Shizu. Rimuru. He thought as he looked at Rimuru in her human form. Rimuru, huh? She said and noticed she was naked. Don't look. Izuku, got it. He said, but then Rimuru and the others entered. The others, what the? They said, surprised, looking at Rimuru. Rimuru, don't look. She said and was about to attack. A few minutes later. We see Rimuru in simple clothes, but at least she wasn't naked anymore. Guido, but seriously. Are you Rimuru? Rimuru, of course, it's Rimuru-sama. There's no doubt about it. Ranga, I would recognize Rimuru-sama even if she changed shape. Plus, my master, Izuku-sama, told me so I believe every word of Izuku-sama. Kaval, yeah, calm down, it just looks like a smaller Shizu. Rimuru, size they're right, look. He said, and everyone saw Rimuru return to his original form. Guido, I always say, seeing is believing. He said as he looked at Rimuru. Eren, so you devoured Shizu, just like Ifrit? He said, glancing at Izuku. Rimuru, it was the only decent burial I could give her. I'm sorry I didn't consult with her fellow travelers. Kaval, well, if Shizu wanted that, then it's okay with me. Rimuru, I'm sorry, Eren. You must be thinking it was irrational. Eren, I just wish I could have said goodbye before you did it. He said with a smile. Izuku, Shizu told us she had fun with you guys while traveling. And also said you attract trouble. Eren and Guido glanced at Kaval with a smile. Kaval, huh? Why are you guys looking at me like that? Eren, well, you know. Guido, yeah. Kaval, oh, I can already see you forgot that you fell into that pit. He said while pointing at Guido. Guido, that's unfair, I fell because Eren pushed me. Eren, hey, don't blame me for that. Rimuru, he, it's better that they're arguing. He thought as he watched the three of them bickering. Although it's clear they relied a lot on Shizu. He thought comically. A few hours later. We see Izuku and Rimuru in their human form wearing better clothes made by the dwarves, and they were praying at Shizu's grave while Ranga was with them. After that, they started to admire the scenery. Rimuru, Izuku. Izuku, yes? Rimuru, does it bother you that I'm using this body? She said a bit embarrassed. Izuku, sighs, no, honestly no, if you're thinking that by using this body, you're Shizu? He said, and she lowered her head sadly. No, you're not, because you're Rimuru. Rimuru Tempest. He said, and Rimuru was surprised by that. Don't think that by using this body, you're her, you're you, and you'll always be you. Rimuru. Thank you, I wanted to hear that from you. She said with a smile and a slight blush from Izuku's words. Izuku, I'm glad. He said, but then felt a murderous instinct from Rimuru. Rimuru, by the way, it's time we talked about the kiss you gave to Shizu. She said with a very friendly smile. Izuku. Sure. He said with his usual expression. I feel like I'm going to get more of a punishment than a scolding. He thought comically. POV Izuku. The adventurers left, but before they did, they asked Rimuru to be in his human form to thank him for everything. Although he wasn't Shizu, he was something similar. After that, Rimuru and I gave them new things. Kaval and Guido gave him new armor and clothes, and Eren a very resistant tunic, which would help him a lot. Then they said goodbye, but before thanking them, well, they hugged Kaijin and the dwarves, and couldn't stop saying, thank you. It's clear that Kaijin and the others are very famous. And after Shizu, I swore to find that Demon King. It's the first time I've heard of a Demon King, and I never thought I'd meet one of them. They just bring trouble, but I'm going to find the Demon King and make him pay for making Shizu cry, for everything he did to her. He'll suffer. Now I'm going to get information. Lion Cromwell, you'll pay dearly. I always keep my promises. And by the way, I've already gotten used to my human form. I can hold it as long as I want, and every moment improves my mana. NPOV Izuku. Elsewhere. In a desolate place, a desert, we see a creature with a pig's head, walking aimlessly. It collapses to the ground, but after a few seconds, a figure appears. Hey! I'll give you a name and a little food. He said, and the pig man looked at him. Who are you? Gramone, I'm Gramone, you can consider me your father. He said, and the pig man looked at him suspiciously. Would you rather die here? The pig man was silent for a moment. Gramone. Give me a name, and not just that, also food. Gramone touched his forehead. Gramone, your name will be Gel. Gel? Gel? He said and then glowed. Gramone, and someday, you'll take over a forest I want, and you'll be the Gombazaster. Gramone then pulled out a piece of meat. Gel quickly snatched it and began to eat as if there were no tomorrow while Gramone watched. Izuku is walking calmly with Ranga in the village. Ranga, they are doing very well, don't you think, Izuku-sama? Izuku, yes, they are doing well. Dord, Murd, and Garm are doing well with everything, from clothes, houses, crafts, and more. They are doing a great job. Ranga, I'm glad you think the same as me, Izuku-sama. Izuku looked at Ranga. Izuku, Ranga, what do you think of me? I mean, my personality. Does anything bother you about me? Ranga, honestly, nothing bothers me, Izuku-sama. I like everything about you, so much so that I'm glad you're my master. Izuku, do you think I'm too cold? Ranga, don't worry, Izuku-sama. Who made you think that about yourself? Your personality is incredible. Izuku, no, just thinking. By the way, I haven't eaten anything, even though I have my human body, I don't eat or sleep. Nothing. I wonder if Rimuru also experiences this since he has a human form. Maybe I should ask him later. He seemed very happy with that body, although I think it's my imagination. So Izuku's day passed, going from one place to another, helping where he could. Thanks to him, they finished quickly with some things. Now we see Izuku sweaty but not seeming tired as he walked accompanied by Ranga. It was barely afternoon. Ranga, you did a lot today, Izuku-sama. Izuku, it was expected, I have to help, right? He said as the sweat disappeared. Ranga, that's my master. Izuku-sama, if you want, I can carry you. Izuku, oh, then, thank you, and I hope I'm not bothering you. He said as he climbed onto Ranga. Ranga, don't worry, Izuku-sama, it will be an honor. He said happily, and they continued on their way. A few minutes passed. Ranga, Izuku-sama, what will you do now? Izuku, I don't know, I did what I had to do today. I told them to take a break, they deserve it. We'll continue tomorrow. Ranga, I understand. Izuku, and you, Ranga, do you have anything to do? Ranga, no, honestly, my duty is to accompany you everywhere, Izuku-sama. Izuku, and Rimuru? Ranga, yes, but you gave me a name, Izuku-sama. Even though she's also my master, I have to accompany you because you gave me my name. Izuku, I see. He said with a sweat drop. Then Izuku glanced over and saw something interesting. Rimuru talking with Reber, but then Reber quickly left. Rimuru, this morning I was able to make clones of myself, both adult and my own age. It's very useful, she thought with a smile, but then she saw Izuku. Oh, hi, Izuku. She said more animatedly. Izuku, I think because she has a human form, she can do more normal things like before coming to this world. Her excitement is evident, he thought as Rimuru approached him. Hello, Rimuru. Rimuru, also, hi, Ranga. Ranga, hello, Rimuru-sama. Rimuru, and what were you doing? Izuku, I was helping the others while Ranga accompanied me. Rimuru, I see. And guess what, Izuku? Izuku, what? What happened? Rimuru, I can eat now, and maybe savor meals. She said happily as she hugged Izuku. Izuku, I'm happy for you. He said as he returned the hug, I'm glad she enjoys food. Rimuru, did you just say, I'm happy for you? Shouldn't it be for us? Since we can savor food now, right? Izuku, sorry, but I can't eat. Rimuru, why? Don't you get hungry? Izuku, I don't know, I haven't felt hungry like you, right? Remember, we're slimes. Rimuru, yes, but I still want to eat. Let's go eat, Izuku. Izuku, sigh, it's okay. He said as Rimuru hugged him again. You seem really happy. Rimuru, of course, how could I not be? Although I hope I'm not bothering you with these hugs, he said as he pulled away from the hug. Izuku, nah, it's fine. Those hugs are nice. Rimuru, then I'll give you more. He said with a thumbs up and a slight blush. Izuku and Ranga exchanged a nervous glance. Izuku, I'm glad. He said as he started to leave. Ranga, wait for me, Izuku-sama. He said as he followed his master. Rimuru, wait. He said, also going after Izuku. Do you mind if I join you? He said as he walked alongside Izuku. Izuku, honestly, no, but don't you have to help Rimuru and Kaijin? Rimuru, no, we finished up some things already. He said he'd let me know if anything else comes up, so I don't have anything else to do. I want to spend the rest of the day with you, Izuku. He said with a smile but then realized what he said. I want to spend the day with Izuku? And I said it so casually? He thought with a blush. Izuku, are you okay? You're blushing. Ranga, Izuku-sama is right. Are you okay, Rimuru-sama? He asked, concerned. Rimuru, oh, yeah, I forgot. Now my blushes are noticeable. They weren't obvious in my original form, but now they are. I completely forgot about that. He thought and said. Sure, I'm fine, don't worry. Ranga calmed down a bit, but he still kept an eye on everything. Izuku, okay, but if anything comes up, let me know, alright? Rimuru, why yeah? He said and thought. Izuku always worries about everything, even if it's nothing, he. It's nice to have someone who cares about you. He thought, happily. Now we see the three of them walking and talking, well, just Izuku and Rimuru. Ranga was calm. Rimuru, what do you think will be on the menu? Meat? I hope it's meat. Then maybe some rice too, even though there are rice plants in this world, Izuku? He said, the last part in a whisper so Ranga wouldn't hear. Izuku, I don't know. He said simply. Rimuru, then I'll have to look for them and make bread rolls. Izuku, you really seem eager to eat. Rimuru, of course, I can finally eat. That's all I want. Izuku, what I'm really interested in is my delicious katsudon, I hope I can try one. I hope. Then they saw a group of goblins with Rimuru and Kopta. Rimuru, oh, Rimuru-sama, Izuku-sama. Izuku, are you the one bringing food for everyone? Thanks. Rimuru, she's right, thanks. Rimuru, no, thank you. We're about to head into the forest. Rimuru, today we're having a banquet, so bring something good and delicious. He said with a smile, but then Kopta approached. Izuku, I never thought there would be a banquet, he got too excited. Kopta, Rimuru-sama, are you going to eat with us today? Rimuru, obviously, with this body, I can taste everything I want. Kopta, then, Izuku-sama, are you going to eat too? Izuku, sure. He said simply. Well, Rimuru kinda made me if I think about it. Kopta, oh, then Rimuru-sama, if you eat a lot, maybe your breasts will grow. Izuku, Kopta, you shouldn't have said that. At that moment, Kopta received a kick from Rimuru. Rimuru, I apologize, Rimuru-sama. I'll handle disciplining Kopta properly, and just for that, I'll bring a tornado for the feast. Rimuru imagined a tornado. Rimuru, yes, thank you very much. While they talked, Izuku watched Kopta walking towards them with some difficulty, seeing that with a dubious expression. Izuku, I remember my punishment. He thought and felt a slight shiver. I don't want to remember that. He thought with a dubious look. Rimuru, leave it to me. Many magical beasts have traveled here from the forest. The prey is abundant. Izuku glanced at the forest for a moment. Izuku, is something wrong? Rimuru, no, Izuku-sama, magical beasts move from place to place according to the change in climate. I don't think it's anything serious. Izuku looked at that for a moment and then at Ranga. Rimuru, did he think the same thing, perhaps? Izuku, Ranga, you'll go with them. I doubt anything will happen, but it's better to be safe than sorry. He said and Ranga nodded. Ranga, Whatever you say, Izuku-sama. He said and looked at Rimuru. Don't be shy, Rimuru, let me go with you. He said seriously. Now we see Ranga, Rimuru, and the others heading towards the forest. Izuku, oh, Rimuru. He said, getting his attention. I forgot to give you this. He said, confusing Rimuru, but then he took out Shizu's mask. Rimuru, what? You had it? No wonder I couldn't find it. Izuku, were you looking for it? I didn't expect that. It was broken, and I fixed it. I thought I'd give it to you. Rimuru, are you sure? Izuku, of course, you should have it more than me. He said, handing him the mask. Rimuru looked at the mask for a moment. Rimuru, thank you, Izuku. He said with a smile. Now we see Izuku starting to leave. Rimuru, Izuku. Where are you going? Izuku, to a quiet place. He said simply, and when Rimuru was about to say something else, he was already gone. Rimuru, sigh, I guess I'll go to the cave, I have to check something. He said and also started to leave. With Izuku. We see him in the forest, walking calmly. Izuku, what should I do? Why did I come to the forest? Well, since I'm here. He said and climbed a tree. I'll be here for a moment. He said, settling in better. What a nice way to pass the time. He said calmly. A few hours passed. We still see Izuku lying on the tree, relaxed. Izuku, I wonder if Ranga and the others have arrived yet. He said, but then he felt several energies. What are those? Master, there are like 6 energies. But there are also other energies. Izuku, I'm afraid it's Ranga and the others with those strange energies. Besides, I feel Rimuru's energy with them. You're going, aren't you? Izuku, of course, I've been lying down for too long, it's good to stretch the muscles once in a while, besides, if they did something to Ranga and the others, they'll pay. He said coldly and started to head there quickly. We see Izuku running towards them, but when he was about to arrive, he saw a black flame coming out of the place. Izuku, it's Rimuru, I have to hurry. He thought as he hastened his steps. With Rimuru. We see her with a smile as she pointed her hand towards the sky, and black fire emerged from her hand, but she wasn't alone, there were about 6 people, 3 of them were immobilized while the other 3 were fighting with Rimuru. Rimuru, I hope this scares them off, I don't want to keep fighting, please. Then a red-haired one spoke up. I find it hard to admit, but I can't beat you, but even so, even if I can't defeat you. He said seriously as he prepared to attack. Rimuru, I don't understand why they're attacking us if we didn't do anything. He said comically. Just then, a red-haired woman was about to interrupt, but Izuku arrived. Izuku, oh, hi Rimuru. He said calmly as he looked at her, but then he noticed the situation. Oh, are you having fun? Rimuru, no. How can you think that? I only came because I felt them attacking Ranga and the others. He said as he stopped summoning black fire and pointed at Ranga, Kopta, Rimuru, and the other goblins. Izuku, oh, you're slacking off. He said comically. From what I see, they're not trying to kill them, they just put them to sleep, while Kopta has a mark from an attack but I think Rimuru must have healed him. Ranga seems fine from what I see. Ranga, that's right, Izuku-sama, they attacked us. He said seriously but then calmed down when he saw Izuku. Izuku, I see. He said as the 3 of them looked at Izuku seriously. Well, the red-haired woman seemed like she didn't want to fight anymore. Who are you guys? W were ogres. Said the red-haired one. Why did I stutter? Who is he? He thought seriously while remaining on guard. Izuku, ogres? He said confused. I thought ogres were big, muscular, but these are completely different. They even wear armor and carry katanas. He thought comically. But I don't think they're the ones we're looking for. What's a girl like her and that guy doing here? I sense a monstrous energy between those 2. He thought and sheathed his sword, which made Rimuru sigh. Rimuru, I don't think they'll fight anymore, that's a relief. He thought with a smile. At that moment, the red-haired woman also felt relieved but a bit nervous because of the green-haired one's aura, but more so with Rimuru. I'm glad this has calmed down. Said an old man. Izuku, me too. He said comically, and then he looked at the 3 others who were immobilized. Rimuru, that was me, they attacked me, and that's all I could do to not hurt them. Well, just those 2. He said as he pointed to a purple-haired girl and a big guy. I may have gone a little overboard with him, Hee hee hee. He said nervously as he pointed this time to a blue-haired guy who was slowly waking up while sporting a mark from a hit on his chest. Izuku, I guess I missed a lot. Rimuru, and where were you? Izuku, I was in a tree. He said simply, causing a sweat drop from Rimuru. But then the red-haired one approached them and bowed. I'm very sorry for our actions, we attacked without thinking, we were wrong. Izuku, nah, it's alright. You attacked us, and we did the same, so we're even? But we want to know who you are, please tell us. Izuku and Rimuru, us? We're just slimes. They said and returned to their original forms, with Rimuru landing on Ranga. Izuku, it's been a while since I've turned back to my original form. He thought as he looked at himself. The three of them were very surprised, and even more so were the other three who had recovered and approached to see what was happening. Rimuru, by the way, sorry about earlier. He said as he looked at those three. The three just shook their heads calmly. And sorry for cutting off your arm, but I was surprised by how you regenerated. Izuku, huh? He said comically. Seriously, did I miss a lot? Rimuru, nah, it's okay, and by the way, what are your names? We don't have names. Rimuru, oh, right, I forgot that most monsters don't have names. Said the slime. Izuku returned to his human form. Izuku, but I've already gotten used to this. He thought with a sweat drop. Well, if you want, you can come to our village, and later we're having a banquet, so what do you say? The ogres looked at each other surprised by the proposal. Really? Izuku, sure, why not? He said calmly. Rimuru, Izuku is very kind. He thought happily. After that, everyone went to the village without thinking they'd have more problems later on. We see Izuku with Rimuru in a small house while they comically watch the ogres. They didn't say anything, neither Izuku nor Rimuru. The atmosphere was uncomfortable for both of them, but the ogres didn't seem to mind the silence that ensued. Izuku, we've been talking, Rimuru and I, and we've decided to give you names. He said neutrally. Rimuru, we talked? When? Well, we were going to name them anyway. Comically. The ogres were more surprised, or rather, they were in shock because they had literally just met. The red-haired one, are you sure about this? Said the red-haired one. Izuku, of course? The girl with red hair, but we barely know each other. Said the girl. Rimuru, we know? The redhead, but does that mean we'll also be your subordinates? Said the redhead. Izuku/Rimuru, sure. Well, if you want to be. The ogres looked at each other. Izuku, besides, you seem like good people. He said calmly. Well, they'd make good ogres. He thought comically. The redhead, I'm not sure if we should accept. Said the redhead. Izuku, don't worry, we won't force you. We just say this because you seem nice. Oh, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and this adorable little one, he said, pointing to Rimuru, is called Rimuru Tempest. He said calmly. Rimuru blushed at how he introduced her, but it wasn't noticeable because she was in her slime form. Another ogre, and what will we get in return? Izuku, Rimuru. Rimuru, yes, we'll give you clothes, food, and a place to sleep. She said calmly. I can't wait to finish this, I want to eat. The ogres looked at each other and started murmuring while Izuku and Rimuru watched them comically. Rimuru, is this serious? Izuku, what's with the serious faces? And that red-haired one is cute. He thought with a chibi face. But then the red-haired one spoke? The red-haired girl, but making appointments is very risky for high-ranking monsters and... She was interrupted as someone touched her head. Huh? Izuku, don't worry, it's okay. He said calmly while petting her, she just blushed slightly. And thanks for your concern? The red-haired girl, why yes. She said a little nervously. The red-haired ogre's brother, is she serious, sister? The red-haired ogre's brother thought as he watched the scene. Rimuru, that's enough. She said in her human form and separated the two. Izuku, but why are you upset? Rimuru, I'm not upset, I just want to eat already. She said, and Izuku had a drop of sweat. Izuku, sighs, maybe it's ready now, you guys. He said, looking at the ogres. Let's go, you must be hungry, and you can think about all this more calmly, don't you think? They gave a smile, the red-haired one just smiled a little. Everyone started to leave, but the red-haired one stayed for a moment. The red-haired ogre, maybe I'm not like him. I want to avenge them, for my brothers. Why am I not strong enough? He thought frustrated. The red-haired girl, brother, let's go. She said with a smile. The red-haired ogre, why yeah. With Izuku and Rimuru. We see them with the ogres, comically watching the goblins who made a lot of food. Izuku, they took it very seriously. He said as he looked at all the food. No katsudon. Rimuru, well, I'm not complaining. She said calmly and went to the food. When I arrived in this world, I couldn't eat, so this will be the first time I eat. She said with stars in her eyes. Thus began the banquet, some danced, some ate as if there were no tomorrow. They were having fun, which cheered up Izuku even though he didn't show it. It gave him peace. He then saw the red-haired one sitting and eating calmly with Kaijin and the others, talking about something. Izuku, sorry to interrupt, but can I know what you're talking about? He said calmly as he approached them. Oh, of course, don't worry. Said the red-haired one as he watched Izuku climbing a tree. Is it similar up there? He said with a smile. Izuku, somewhat similar. He said calmly. Carry on with what you were doing. He said as he looked at the stars. The orcs attack the ogres. He said, surprising Kaijin, Rigard, and Rigger, while Gobdo was just arriving. Izuku. He remained calm as he watched the stars while listening to what the red-haired one was saying. It turned out that the orcs had attacked the ogres, but what was strange was that the orcs were weak. Why would they attack someone stronger than them? I thought they had planned it, but Rigard said they weren't clever enough to do such things, so I assumed, like them, that someone helped them commit this terrible act. The red-haired one had 600 brothers, and only 6 were left after that. I got very angry. How could someone do that? And even more so when they said it could be a demon king, but I calmed down. They also said that in that massacre, there was a masked monster. Izuku. Izuku, no wonder you were so angry. He said as he looked at the stars. Why yes? He said as he clenched his hands. Izuku, sighs then I'll help you. He said calmly, surprising everyone. Rigard, Izuku-sama, you're so cool. Rigger, Izuku-sama, you're so kind to everyone? Why? Said the blue-haired one who was behind a tree. They looked at him. You barely know us. First, you want to give us names, then be our subordinates, and now you want to help us with our revenge? Izuku, of course. He said simply. It's just. It reminds me of some people. That I couldn't save. He said, remembering his past life. Gran Torino. Kachan. The blue-haired one was about to speak but was interrupted by the red-haired one. Great Izuku. He said as he stood up and looked at Izuku in the tree. Izuku, tell me? We accept being your subordinates. He said, surprising the blue-haired one as Izuku watched. Then Izuku climbed down from the tree. He's not bad. Unlike that person who came to give us names. I can trust him. Besides, I'll be able to become stronger. He said with a smile. But when I've achieved my revenge, I'll leave. Izuku, That's fine, it's your decision, and I have to respect it. Besides, it'll help us in several ways. He said, extending his hand to him. Of course. Thank you. He said and shook his hand. Rimuru saw this while eating. Rimuru, thank goodness Izuku managed to do it, I didn't want to go over there to talk. I just want to eat and have fun here. She thought comically. After that, the banquet continued. The red-haired girl was talking calmly with the goblins, although she sometimes glanced at Izuku. He noticed it sometimes and waved, making her blush and look away. Izuku was confused but didn't pay much attention. The purple-haired one was dancing with some goblins. It seemed like they were teaching her or she was teaching them, but it was fun to watch them. The big guy was eating while talking to the goblins. The old one was talking calmly with Izuku, and similarly with the red-haired one, while being observed by the blue-haired one with a small smile. Izuku, an interesting night, new friends. Now what does the future hold for us? He said as he looked at the stars. Unknown place. We see an army of orcs with human armor, there were thousands or more, being observed by some reptile-shaped creatures. Reptile, there are many. He said, frightened. Reptile too, yes, we must inform the king immediately. He said and the other nodded, quickly leaving. We see Izuku and Rimuru calm while they watch the 6 ogres. Rimuru, there are 6. Izuku, and there's you and me. Rimuru, So 3 for you and 3 for me. Izuku, sounds good to me. They were discussing who would name whom while being observed by the attentive gaze of the ogres, some of whom had a drop of sweat. Izuku, I'll name the big one. He said with a chibi face. Rimuru, I'll name the redhead. She said comically. Izuku, the old one. Rimuru, the blonde. Izuku, He's thinking about what to choose. The blue-haired one. He said while looking at him. Rimuru, then the purple-haired one. Izuku and Rimuru, sounds good to me. They said while looking at each other, and the ogres looked at them comically. Izuku, big one. He said and approached him. Rimuru, redhead. She said and approached the mentioned one. Izuku and Rimuru, you'll be called. They collapsed onto the ground. Minutes later. We see Izuku and Rimuru waking up slowly. Rimuru and Izuku had their original forms. Rimuru was in a small bed being watched by the purple-haired one, and Izuku saw that he was in the lap of the blonde. Rimuru, what's going on here? She said annoyed, watching the scene. I don't remember exactly what happened. Izuku and I were going to name the ogres and then everything went black. I think we used up the magicules even though they are only 3, what names? Maybe it was the ranks. Izuku didn't say anything. When he fully woke up, he saw that he was in her lap. Izuku, it's comfortable. He said, turned back into his human form, and snuggled in more, making the blonde blush but she had a smile. Rimuru, but who are you? And you too? She said while looking at the purple-haired one who had a smile. Shion, I'm Shion, thank you for the name, Rimuru-sama. She said with a smile. Shuna, and I'm Shuna, Rimuru-sama. She said with a smile. Izuku, Shuna and Shion? Great name, Rimuru, I like the names, and also. He thought and saw the blonde. You look more beautiful than before. He said unintentionally, causing Shuna to blush heavily. Shuna, thank you for the C compliment, Izuku-sama. She said a bit timid and nervous while blushing. Then Izuku feels a murderous instinct, and it's Rimuru. Rimuru, repeat what you said, Izuku. She said seriously in her human form. Izuku, I said you look more beautiful than before. He said, causing Rimuru to blush. Both of you. He said in a whisper, making Shuna and Shion laugh. Rimuru, is it serious, Izuku? Izuku, I'm not lying, or am I? He said calmly and stood up from Shuna's legs. Then a redhead arrives? Oh, you've awakened, Izuku-sama, Rimuru-sama. He said while kneeling. Rimuru, oh, sorry if that bothers you, but who are you? I don't remember exactly what happened. Rimuru, I'm Rimuru, Rimuru-sama. He said with respect. Rimuru, oh, Shuna and Shion, I remember, they are the ogres, but this one has changed. She thought and said. But you've changed a lot. She said, remembering how he was before. Rimuru, it's because I evolved into Kijin when you gave me the name, Rimuru, and thank you very much. Izuku, he's a bit smaller than before, and his magicules have increased, evolved, so this is what happens if you give a monster a name of some rank, ogre to Kijin. He thought and said. A big change. Then 3 more people arrive? Oh, it's true that they have awakened? I'm glad it's true? Me too? Rimuru-sama and Izuku-sama. Izuku, do I know them? He said comically. Just kidding, you're the old one, right? Hakuru, ha ha ha, what a great way to remember me, Izuku-sama, I'm Hakuru. Izuku, now you look a little younger. He said with a thumbs up. And you? He said to the blue-haired one. Sue, the name you gave me was Sue, Izuku-sama, and I'm glad you're well. He said while inclining his head slightly in a sign of respect. Kurabe, and I'm Kurabe, I hope you remember me, Izuku-sama. This was the most surprising of all, even Izuku was surprised but his face was something else. Izuku and Rimuru, this one looks like a normal person. He thought while looking at Kurabe. Izuku, this is a surprise. He said comically. So? He said while looking at the ogres who are now Kijin. Izuku and Rimuru, Shuna, Shion, Rimuru, Hakuru, Sue, and Kurabe, it's an honor to have you here. They said with a smile from Rimuru and Izuku was calm. The 6, likewise, it's an honor to have you as our masters, Rimuru-sama, Izuku-sama. They said while kneeling. Izuku, it's not necessary for you to do that. Just calling us by our names is enough. He said calmly while they nodded but still remained on their knees, which caused a drop of sweat from Izuku and Rimuru. A few hours later. We see Rimuru, Izuku, and Ranga on a hill while watching Hakuru teaching Gobta and a few more goblins how to use the sword, to the attentive gaze of Izuku and Rimuru. Izuku, wow, Hakuru is definitely strict. He said while watching the mentioned. Rimuru, definitely? She thought comically. Izuku, at least that way, they can defend themselves a little. He said while watching them train. Rimuru, that's true. Then Benimaru arrives where they were. Benimaru, Izuku-sama, Rimuru-sama. Izuku and Rimuru, oh, hi. Benimaru, it appears you're watching them suffer, train. Izuku and Rimuru had a drop of sweat. Izuku, yeah. That's how that day passed. They talked about various things to get to know each other better, but without knowing that something or someone was approaching the village.